Hey everyone, welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Great to be here. Today we're diving into something pretty paradoxical happening across the Taiwan Strait.
Yeah, you hear all this news, right? Taiwanese folks getting detained over in mainland China, sometimes for, political reasons. It's worrying.
Definitely. But then there's this flip side that's just weird. You have these high-profile Taiwanese criminals, people wanted for serious stuff back home.
Like major fraud, corruption.
Exactly. And they flee to the mainland, and suddenly it's like they're untouchable, living openly, even thriving.
It's a total contradiction, isn't it? Political targets get nabbed, but major criminals seem to get a free pass.
It really highlights how tangled up law and politics are over there.
It reminds me of my dog, Spark. Silly analogy, maybe.
Come on, Spark the dog.
So whenever he gets into it with our cat, Chairman Meow, very intimidating Spark bolts straight for this one corner on the balcony.
His escape route.
Yeah, it's his safe zone. The cat literally stops at the edge like it knows that corner is off limits. Makes no sense, but it works for Spark.
Okay, I think I see where you're going. The Taiwanese fugitive is Spark.
Running from the cat Taiwanese law.
To the safe corner, mainland China. A place where the rules suddenly don't seem to apply, at least not Taiwan's rules.
Exactly. For Taiwan's justice system, the mainland becomes this sort of legal vacuum. But it's not based on law, right? It's politics.
That's the crucial part. Beijing's actions aren't about shared legal principles. It's politics deciding where law begins and ends. Law becomes a tool, not this neutral institution.
If I tried that with my parking tickets, saying this street is actually my property, they'd just laugh and probably tow my car.
Right. But imagine if, say, an American criminal fled to the UK, and the UK government said, oh, America isn't really a country, it's our colony, pledge allegiance to the crown, and you're good.
That's basically the dynamic we're talking about.
Pretty much. So the big question we're digging into today is, when politics redraws these judicial lines, what kind of legal protection or recourse is actually left?
Yeah, what happens to justice in that scenario?
So today on Sip and Talk, we're going to unpack this. We'll look at the legal gaps, the political games, and, what it all means. Why does this Spark safety corner even exist?
Let's get into it. First off, is this a widespread thing or just a few isolated cases?
Oh, it's definitely a recognized phenomenon. Taiwan's government and legislature have looked into this. They talk about fugitives long hidden in mainland China. It's not just one or two.
Do we have numbers? Like, how many are we talking about?
Well, thousands of Taiwanese fugitives might be abroad, generally, but the ones Taiwan is actively tracking as major escapees hiding specifically in mainland China. That number is at least 94.
94 major ones.
Wow.
And these aren't petty thieves, you said?
No, not at all. We're talking serious crimes. Think massive corruption cases, huge economic fraud stuff that can really shake the financial system, plus large-scale drug trafficking, organized crime bosses.
The kind of crimes that really damage public trust.
Exactly. So the question becomes, why there? Why pick Beijing over, say, London or somewhere else?
Well, what's the draw?
Well, initially it's about convenience. But the real payoff is the political shield.
Okay, let's break down convenience first. What does that mean practically?
Think about it. If you're Taiwanese, you speak Mandarin, you understand the culture, you probably already have business contacts or family ties there.
Settling in is way easier than trying to disappear in, Europe or South America. Less language barrier, less cultural shock.
Right. It's just smoother. And then there's the economic side. These people often aren't just hiding, they're bringing money, sometimes huge amounts.
Illicit money, presumably.
Often, yeah. And they invest it, they set up businesses, factories. Some become what's known as red top merchants.
Red top merchants, what's that?
It implies they have connections, political protection at a high level. Basically, their money buys them influence and a certain level of local immunity.
How does that work? Like the local government looks the other way?
It can be a kind of unspoken deal. Imagine a fugitive invests millions, builds a factory, hires hundreds of locals, pays taxes.
Suddenly, they're not just a wanted criminal, they're a pillar of the local economy.
Precisely. So if Taipei sends a request saying, hey, send this guy back, the local officials might see someone who's boosting their GDP, creating jobs. Removing him hurts them.
So the wealth becomes a shield. Interesting.
But even bigger than convenience or economics is the core reason. Low legal risk. That's the main draw.
They just don't think they'll get sent back.
Exactly. The perception, and often the reality, is that hiding on the mainland carries way less risk of repatriation compared to almost anywhere else.
So it's not accidental. They're actively choosing China because of the political situation, using it to escape Taiwanese law.
It's a calculated move. They're exploiting the political tension for personal gain, turning that gray zone into their safe haven.
Which brings us to the legal nuts and bolts. Why is repatriation so hard?
The fundamental problem is the lack of a formal sovereign-to-sovereign extradition treaty. That kind of treaty just doesn't exist between Taiwan and China.
But wait, I remember hearing about some kind of agreement back in 2009. The Cross-Strait Joint Crime Fighting something.
You're right. The Cross-Strait Joint Crime Fighting and Judicial Mutual Assistance Agreement. It does exist on paper.
So why doesn't that work?
Because it's not a treaty between two recognized countries. It's an administrative-level agreement signed by, let's say, authorized but non-governmental bodies.
Okay. So it's not legally binding in the same way an international treaty would be.
Exactly. Its implementation is heavily dependent on the political climate. It's more like a cooperation guideline than a hard and fast legal requirement.
And the politics. That's the poison pill.
Totally. Because Taiwan sees itself as a sovereign nation asking for a criminal back under normal international procedures. But Beijing sees Taiwan as a part of China, making an internal request.
If Beijing signed a formal extradition treaty, that would imply they recognize Taiwan as a separate state.
Which they won't do politically. So the whole basis for standard extradition is missing.
So this 2009 agreement allows for maybe some minor cooperation on less sensitive stuff?
Yeah, there was a bit of that early on, maybe around 2012. Some cooperation on things like telecom fraud cases where suspects were actually sent back.
But not for the big fish.
Generally, no. Especially if the fugitive is politically useful or involved in major economic crimes, then cooperation tends to dry up completely.
Can you give us an example, like a really clear case of this failure?
The classic example is Chen Yuhao. His case really lays it bare.
What did he do?
He was wanted for massive economic crimes, securities fraud, illegal asset transfers. We're talking amounts over NT $20 billion.
20 billion NT dollars. What's that in US dollars?
That's roughly over 600 million US dollars, a staggering amount. Huge hit to Taiwan's economy and public trust.
600 million. And he just disappeared.
He fled back in 2002, so he's been evading justice for over 22 years now.
22 years. Where did he go? What did he do?
He went to Ximen on the mainland. And he didn't just hide. He set up petrochemical factories, became a major economic player there.
So he used the money he allegedly stole to build a new empire.
It seems that way. And crucially, he reportedly acquired mainland residency, possibly even citizenship.
And Taiwan asked for him back, under that 2009 agreement.
Repeatedly. And the response from the mainland has consistently been nothing. Silence or vague non-answers. No concrete response is the official description.
So a guy wanted for a $600 million crime, becomes a local resident, runs businesses, and the agreement is just ignored.
That's the reality. And him getting mainland residency is like the final nail in the coffin for Taiwan's legal reach. It sends a message. Taiwan's warrants are worthless here.
Which explains why Taiwan recently took that step.
Yeah.
The citizenship revocation thing.
Exactly. In 2024, Taiwan announced they'd start revoking the Taiwanese citizenship and household registration of fugitives confirmed to have gotten mainland residency.
Is that meant to force them back?
Not really. It's more punitive. It aims to strip away the advantage of having this ambiguous dual status.
So if Chen Yuhao formally loses his Taiwanese citizenship, he can literally never go back home legally, even if he wanted to decades later.
He's basically locked himself in his own safe zone. Taiwan is saying, okay, you chose their side, fine. You can't have it both ways. It closes a loophole they were exploiting.
Okay, so escaping is one thing, but then there's this whole other layer, the political bargain.
Right. It's not always just about lying low. Many of these fugitives seem to actively court political favor.
How does that work?
There's this narrative, this understanding, that if a fugitive publicly supports China's political goals, like unification, or praises the CCP, they get protection.
Like a quid pro quo? Loyalty for immunity?
Pretty much. It acts like a political umbrella. Publicly endorsing the right views becomes a way to ensure you won't get extradited and you get the local government's quiet approval to live and work.
So they trade political statements for personal safety.
And from Beijing's perspective, these individuals aren't just liabilities. They can be turned into assets, tools for the United Front strategy.
United Front, that's about influencing Taiwan, right?
Yeah.
How do fugitives fit in?
Beijing can use their presence, their seemingly successful lives on the mainland, to project certain messages back to Taiwan.
What kind of messages?
Two main ones, it seems. First, to paint a picture that life is better, safer, more prosperous on the mainland. Look, these guys are thriving here. Maybe unification isn't so bad.
Sort of a come on over, the water's fine message, using fugitives as examples.
Yeah.
That seems problematic.
It is. And the second message is using the non-return of these criminals to blame Taiwan's current government. The subtext is, see, cross-strait cooperation is stalled because you won't accept our political terms. If you did, we could solve these crime problems together.
Wow. Okay, let's look at some specific examples, because sometimes this strategy seems to backfire spectacularly, right? I've heard the phrase China accepting Taiwan's garbage.
Yeah, the optics can get really bad for Beijing. Take Lin Chincheng. Fled Taiwan years ago, wanted for serious stuff, fraud, extortion.
Okay. Where is he now?
He's reportedly running a youth entrepreneurship park in Quanzhou.
A wanted fraudster.
Yeah.
Teaching young entrepreneurs.
That's what's reported. And the accusation is he's actively helping with United Front work, like helping other Taiwanese get mainland residency, maybe helping secure loans that maybe don't have strict repayment terms, kind of political incentives.
So he goes from criminal to political operator, pulling more people into the mainland system.
That's the allegation. Then there's the case of Lu Degui, or Yufeng. He fled after a 2017 conviction for sexual assault and injury.
A violent crime.
Yes. And he popped up in mainland promotional videos talking about his love for China, showing off his nice life.
How did that go over?
Terribly. Taiwanese media and netizens immediately pointed out his conviction. The narrative flipped. China is celebrating and sheltering a convicted sex offender. Huge own goal for the propaganda effort.
Yeah, that's not the image you want to project. Any others?
Remember the TikTok passport cutter? Hong Zhihong, wanted for money laundering, fraud.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. He cut up his passport on video.
Duyin, yeah.
Yeah.
Very dramatic. Declared allegiance to China, denounced Taiwan, advocated unification.
This gesture. Did it work?
It backfired. Taiwan authorities checked and found he hadn't actually legally renounced his citizenship. He just destroyed the booklet for show.
So it was just political theater.
Pretty much. So Taiwan said, oh, you want to renounce? Okay. And formally revoked his citizenship anyway, while also reminding everyone he was a wanted fraudster trying to dodge the law with cheap stunts.
Exposes the whole thing as transactional, not genuine belief.
Exactly. And one more quick one. Li Qi, a stock market scammer, allegedly ran a scheme worth about 70 million NTD, maybe $2.2 million US.
Led to the mainland.
Yep. And now he's reportedly online, engaging in political commentary, like claiming Taiwan's currency will become useless paper after unification.
Trying to scare people into supporting unification.
That seems to be the goal. But ironically, he ends up highlighting the potential economic devastation for ordinary Taiwanese people if that happened. His warning becomes a reason not to want unification.
So the propaganda often unravels when you look closer.
Often, yeah. The criminal background tends to undercut the message.
Let's pull back a bit. How does the wider world, or at least critics, view China's behavior in all this? Protecting fugitives, the United Front stuff.
Well, it feeds into a very harsh critique. You sometimes hear that Beijing operates less like a state adhering to international law and more like, well, the extreme rhetoric compares it to a criminal organization.
That's strong language. Where does that come from?
It stems from a pattern of behavior, according to critics. Things like the situation in Xinjiang, the overseas police stations used to monitor and pressure dissidents abroad, economic coercion against other countries.
And sheltering criminals fits that pattern.
In the eyes of critics, yes. It looks like prioritizing political goals over legal norms, operating outside the expected rules-based order. If a non-state group did these things systematically, they might face charges like racketeering under laws like ICO in the U.S.
So the comparison is based on a perceived pattern of acting outside or above the law.
That's the essence of that particular critique. For Taiwan specifically, it makes China feel like a judicial black hole. Their laws just stop at the border, and justice seems entirely politicized on the other side.
It's not that there's no law there, just that Taiwan's law has no effect.
Exactly. And this perception isn't limited to just Taiwan. Remember that anecdote involving Ho Ching, the wife of Singapore's former PM?
Vaguely. What was it?
She shared an article online, quite famously, that compared the CCP's assertive international actions, especially in the South China Sea, to the behavior of a gangster boss, specifically referencing Vito Corleone from The Godfather.
Wow. Coming from someone high up in Singapore, that's pretty pointed.
Very. It reflects a view that Beijing sometimes operates through power and intimidation rather than mutual respect for international rules or legal agreements, demanding loyalty, like a boss.
Which brings us back to why the Taiwan-China situation is so unique legally.
It really is. It's crucial for you, the listener, to understand this isn't like a typical cross-border crime situation.
Right. It's not like a U.S. fugitive fleeing to Canada. There's an extradition treaty, mutual recognition.
Exactly. The analogy we discussed earlier really captures it. Imagine an American criminal flees to Britain.
And Britain, instead of extraditing, says, America isn't a real country, it's our colony. Pledge loyalty to us, and you can stay.
That absurdity highlights the core problem. The unresolved sovereignty dispute completely paralyzes normal judicial cooperation for serious crimes.
The fugitives just slip through that massive political crack.
And justice becomes something you can bargain for with political statements.
So what's the real cost here? Obviously, for the victims of these crimes, there's no closure. But for Taiwan as a whole?
The biggest cost is probably the erosion of its judicial authority. Every high-profile fugitive living freely across the strait undermines Taiwan's legal system and reinforces Beijing's narrative that Taiwan is just an internal matter, not a sovereign entity whose laws deserve respect.
It chips away at the rule of law itself.
Absolutely. When justice for a massive fraud can potentially be bypassed by political maneuvering, the whole system looks weakened.
But what about the fugitives themselves? Is it really a carefree life for them? You mentioned Chen Yuhao losing his citizenship.
That's a huge point. It's an illusion of a normal life. Yes, they've escaped a Taiwanese prison, but they've entered a different kind of cage.
How so?
First, the loss of identity. Like Chen Yuhao, if they take mainland residency, they lose their Taiwanese citizenship forever. No going home, ever. That's permanent exile.
Trapped in the safe zone.
Right. Second, their safety is completely conditional on politics. They have to stay in favor. They're constantly under scrutiny.
They could be used as pawns, maybe?
Or worse, if the political winds shift, or if they commit a crime locally, maybe get caught in one of China's own anti-corruption sweeps, they could find themselves prosecuted there. The protection they bought could vanish overnight.
So the red top merchant status isn't permanent immunity?
Not necessarily. Their past crimes, initially ignored, could suddenly become useful leverage against them by the mainland authorities if they step out of line or become inconvenient. Their normal life depends on absolute obedience to a system that's arguably far less transparent than the one they fled.
It really sounds like a Faustian bargain.
No.
Trade Taiwanese justice for political shelter, but become beholden to a potentially much harsher, less predictable power.
That's a good way to put it. And as we saw, the propaganda value often fizzles out anyway when their criminal past get exposed. It turns into a bit of a joke.
Okay, so given this mess, what can Taiwan actually do? They can't force cooperation.
They're focusing on what they can control. Two main things.
Which are?
First, really hammering that citizenship revocation policy, making the choice permanent, removing the ambiguity these fugitives exploit, cutting off that tie.
Make them fully commit to their choice of exile.
Right. And second, strengthening legal cooperation with other countries, the U.S., Japan, Australia, European nations, building partnerships that recognize Taiwan's legal standing.
Basically, creating an international network to bypass China legally.
Exactly. Working with jurisdictions where their warrants are respected, trying to isolate the fugitives internationally, even if they can't reach them directly across the strait. It's about chipping away at that safe haven status through other channels.
Seems like the only practical way forward, given the political deadlock.
It's pragmatic. You work around the roadblock by building other routes.
So, wrapping this up, the key takeaway seems to be that China isn't lawless internally, but for Taiwan, it functions as a zone where Taiwanese law simply evaporates.
Yes, the legal net Taiwan casts gets cut the moment it crosses the strait, purely because of the political conflict.
Justice and jurisdiction become political tools, not universal principles in this specific relationship.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, our listeners, to chew on.
What happens when legal justice can be bought, essentially, with political loyalty? If you can trade a pledge of allegiance for immunity from serious crimes.
What does that really say about the foundation of law, and maybe even trust, on both sides of the strait? What's the true price of that kind of loyalty?
Something to think about.
Definitely. And just to reiterate, our goal here is objective discussion based on reported events and analysis. It's not about criticizing any group, just understanding this incredibly complex situation.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for this Sip and Talk. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to Sip and Talk wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss our next conversation.
And hey, before you go, do check out our good friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickytolife. Seriously, he's got great travel vlogs, fun memes.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Mickytolife on YouTube.
Definitely worth a look. We'll catch you on the next Sip and Talk.
See you then.